Morning light stretched softly across the rain-slicked runway, turning every puddle into a fragile mirror. Inside the airport, travelers hurried past one another, eyes glued to phones, minds already in distant skies. Among the blur of coats and carry-ons stood a quiet black girl named Ava, holding a worn brown teddy bear. She said nothing, but her small presence felt heavy, as if she already sensed she would be seen but not noticed. Her mother, Elena, knelt to fix the child's jacket, her movements calm yet deliberate, the kind of grace learned from years of enduring silent judgment. At the boarding gate, flight attendant Grace smiled without warmth. She scanned Elena's ticket longer than necessary, her polite tone carrying the faint chill of assumption. When her eyes flicked toward Ava, something unseen shifted, a tightening of the jaw, a quiet withdrawal of courtesy. "Row 24, she said flatly, moving on before either could reply. Around them, laughter and chatter continued. But for Elena, the air had already changed. It wasn't the first time the world told her, in 1,000 small ways, you don't belong here. As they walked down the jet bridge, Ava tugged her mother's sleeve. "Mommy," she whispered, "why didn't she smile?" Elena hesitated. Eyes forward, the truth lodged behind her teeth. "Maybe she's just tired, baby." But Ava, perceptive beyond her years, noticed more. She smiled at the boy with the red bag, she murmured. Elena's silence said everything. When they reached their seats, nearby passengers shifted subtly. Averted gazes, tight smiles, the quiet choreography of avoidance. Outside, rain trailed down the window like a mirror to Ava's unease. The engines rumbled. The world was about to watch, though no one knew it yet. "Morning, ma'am. Welcome aboard," Grace said, her voice sugar-coated, her smile effortless, until Elena stepped forward with Ava. The curve of Grace's lips faltered, holding just long enough to look polite, but not long enough to feel real. "Seats?" she asked, eyes scanning the ticket like she needed confirmation they belonged. 24A and B, Elena answered softly. Grace nodded without meeting her eyes. "Back of the cabin." The warmth in her tone evaporated as quickly as it appeared. Behind them, another passenger laughed, and Grace's brightness returned instantly. "Oh, Mr. Peters, so good to see you again." The difference was sharp enough for Elena to feel it burn. As they walked down the aisle, Ava clutched her bear tighter. "Mommy," she whispered. "She smiled different at us." Elena's throat tightened, but she forced a smile. "It's okay, baby. Some people forget how to be kind all the way through." A nearby man in a suit watched, eyes darting between Grace and the pair. He said nothing, just lowered his gaze when Grace passed again. The silence was complicity wrapped in comfort. Grace moved through the rows, offering drinks, laughter, charm. But when her eyes caught Elena's, she paused, brief, uneasy. "Everything fine here?" she asked, too bright. Elena nodded. "We're fine, thank you." It was the kind of fine that meant anything but. As Grace turned away, her smile lingered. Not of friendliness, but of quiet defense. She could feel Elena's calmness like judgment, a mirror to something she didn't want to see. The plane hummed louder, and beneath that hum the divide grew, invisible yet undeniable. For everyone else, it was just another morning flight. For Elena and Ava, it was the beginning of being seen and still unseen. Ava tugged at her mother's sleeve, voice barely above a whisper. "Mommy, I'm cold." Elena brushed her fingers over her daughter's arm, cool to the touch. "Excuse me," she said softly, signaling Grace. "Could we please have a blanket for my daughter?" Grace didn't look up right away. "We're out," she replied flatly, eyes flicking past them to the aisle. The words dropped with a kind of finality that wasn't meant to be questioned. Elena blinked, unsure if she'd heard correctly. "Out?" she repeated, trying to keep her tone even. Grace nodded, adjusting her uniform. "Yes, ma'am." "Short flight. We didn't load enough." Moments later, laughter rippled across the cabin. A blonde woman in the row ahead smiled as Grace handed her a blanket. 2, actually. One for her, one for her little boy who wasn't even shivering. Elena's eyes followed the soft fabric as it unfolded. Blue, warm, real. Ava noticed too. "Mommy, she got one," she said, confusion lacing her small voice. Elena placed her hand on Ava's knee. "It's okay," she murmured, though her voice trembled. Grace avoided their gaze now, moving briskly down the aisle, professional, efficient, unbothered. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was loaded, tight, humming with quiet humiliation. A man across the aisle shifted uncomfortably. He looked as if he wanted to speak, but didn't. Averted eyes were easier than involvement. Elena straightened her back, pulling her coat around Ava. The narration softened. Some cruelties are crafted in smiles and silence. They don't need anger to wound, only permission to continue. Grace turned once more, glancing toward them briefly. For a second, guilt flickered across her face. Then she smiled again, the kind that says nothing happened at all. The engines hummed softly, a low, endless sound that filled the silence between rows. Elena sat upright, her coat still wrapped around Ava, whose small body trembled with fatigue. Grace passed again, eyes skimming over them like they didn't exist. The smile she gave to others never touched this row. Ava whispered, "Mommy, are we almost there?" Her voice was small but heavy. Elena nodded, her throat tight. "Almost, sweetheart. Just rest." Across the aisle, a man shifted, lowering his gaze. He had seen everything, the request, the lie, the selective kindness. Yet he said nothing. His silence became another thread in the web that held the cabin still. Grace laughed softly with a passenger 2 seats down, her voice too bright, too eager. Elena watched her, not with anger but a strange calm. Narration rose quietly. There are moments when silence speaks more than rage ever could, when dignity becomes a weapon sharper than words. Ava dozed off, her head resting on Elena's arm. The hum of the engine grew louder, blending with the sound of Elena's slow breathing. Grace turned, meeting her eyes for the briefest second. Elena didn't look away. It wasn't defiance. It was truth, heavy and unspoken. For a moment, Grace faltered, her practiced composure cracking. She adjusted her collar, pretending to check the seatbelt sign. But the stillness between them said everything. Guilt had found its way in. As the plane pierced through a patch of light above the clouds, Elena whispered, "You're okay now, baby." And though no apology had been spoken, everyone felt the imbalance shift, just slightly, quietly, as if the sky itself had taken notice. Ava hugged her bear tighter, shivering despite the thin blanket tucked loosely around her shoulders. She glanced around the cabin, eyes wide. Some passengers looked up briefly, curiosity flickering, then quickly returned to their devices. Others stared straight ahead, pretending nothing was happening. Elena lowered her voice. "It's okay, baby. Just try to relax." But her calmness was a fragile shield against the weight of what she saw. Grace passed again, offering a warm smile to a laughing child in the next row. She didn't glance at Ava. "Can I get you anything else?" Elena shook her head, voice even but soft. "No, thank you." Grace moved on, the practiced rhythm of indifference protecting her from guilt. A man 2 rows ahead whispered to his wife, "Did you see that?" She glanced back, then looked away quickly, adjusting her scarf. Their silence said more than words could. Ava leaned closer to her mother. "Mom, why don't they help me?" Elena's fingers brushed her daughter's hair back. "Some people forget what it means to see another person," she murmured. The plane hummed around them, engines vibrating through the floor. The tiny motions of the crew, folding blankets, passing trays, became amplified in the tense quiet. Each ignored gesture, each small avoidance, compounded the weight in the air. Narration softened in Elena's mind. Cruelty survives not through anger, but through silence. Compliance is easier than confrontation, and for those who are quiet, the cost is carried elsewhere. Ava shivered again. Elena wrapped her coat tighter, pressing a kiss to the top of her daughter's head. Grace moved down the aisle, smiling at another child, unaware that every look she avoided, every act ignored, was witnessed in ways she would never see. Elena's mind drifted as she smoothed Ava's coat. She could almost hear the cadence of Marcus's voice, steady and unyielding, echoing from years ago in a courtroom where his presence alone reshaped the room. "Respect isn't given. It's expected," he had said once, calm, deliberate, every word measured. Judges leaned in. Opponents faltered, and yet he never raised his voice. The silence afterward was louder than any outburst could be. Ava rubbed her eyes, leaning into her mother. "Mommy, are we safe?" Elena bent slightly, brushing her daughter's hair back. "We are," she murmured, though her mind replayed Marcus's victories. Each case, each quiet confrontation, had been a storm that left systems trembling without a single shout. Now the lessons wrapped around her like armor. She remembered one morning, Marcus had sat at the breakfast table, calm coffee in hand, and said, "You fight with dignity. Elena, anger won't make them see. Control will." His eyes, steady, commanded attention. His victories were always quiet, calculated, effective, indelible. Grace passed again, dropping a tray with a clatter near a laughing passenger. Her eyes flicked briefly toward Elena and Ava, guilt hiding beneath her professional mask. Elena didn't react outwardly. Her silence carried weight. Every insult they throw will land softly, but the consequences are coming, she thought. Ava yawned, sleepy. "Daddy would know what to do," she whispered. Elena's throat tightened. "He taught me, and now I'm teaching you," she said softly, a quiet promise more powerful than confrontation. The cabin hummed around them, voices and trays blending into background noise. But within Elena, the calm of past courtroom battles anchored her, turning every dismissive glance and every whispered slight into a quiet prophecy. Reckoning would arrive, controlled, unstoppable, silent. The phone vibrated softly in the hands of a passenger near the back, fingers hovering uncertainly over the screen. Finally, it lifted. The camera caught Ava's small face, her eyes wide, searching, and the faint tremor of cold hands holding a threadbare blanket. Elena noticed immediately, lips pressing together. "It's okay, Ava," she whispered. Her voice carried calm, but inside a storm of dread and determination built. Someone's watching now. Across the aisle, Grace adjusted her uniform, smiling at Liam. "They're overreacting." "It's just a child," she said lightly, her tone too casual, too brittle. Liam's eyes darted to the phone. The laughter faltered, the smile freezing. The murmured comments grew louder, almost imperceptibly. "Did you see that? They're recording everything." The words spread, small sparks catching on the edges of an invisible fire. Elena's hand rested on Ava's shoulder. "See, baby? They can't ignore it anymore." Ava tilted her head, understanding only in fragments. Grace's posture stiffened. It's just a video," she said, voice quivering slightly. A bead of sweat traced her temple. Liam avoided her eyes. Narration. A single lens can turn indifference into evidence, silence into judgment. The tiny frame on a phone is enough to fracture arrogance, enough to make privilege tremble quietly. Ava clutched her bear tighter, unaware of the ripples her presence now caused. The cabin's energy shifted, subtle yet undeniable. Passengers leaned closer, whispers multiplying, the weight of watching holding everyone accountable. Elena spoke softly, deliberately. Justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it records, observes, and waits. Grace swallowed hard, staring at the screen. The laughter that had been her shield was gone. Silence replaced it, heavy, accusing. The camera's red light blinked steadily, capturing the moment for everyone who refused to see before. And somewhere in that small rectangle, the first seeds of reckoning took root. The cabin's hum was steady, the engines a low, constant vibration beneath the seats. Grace adjusted her uniform, forcing a smile toward a pair of passengers. Liam hovered nearby, anxious, fidgeting with a folded napkin. The captain's voice cut softly through the intercom. "Cabin crew, please hold positions. Urgent call from headquarters." All attention required. Grace's smile faltered. "Another complaint." she said, voice tight, almost casual. The flight attendant next to her whispered, "I don't think this is ordinary." Grace's laugh sounded hollow. "It's probably just another internet outrage." "Nothing we can't handle." The intercom buzzed again. "Captain Robert to cabin crew. Confirm you're ready for instructions." Robert's hands were steady, but his jaw tightened. "Yes, HQ. Go ahead." A silence fell, punctuated only by the faint tap of flight attendants' shoes against the aisle. The murmurs of passengers began almost imperceptibly. "What's happening? Do you know who it is?" Grace's tone cracked as she spoke under her breath. "It's nothing, really, just—" The line from headquarters cut through the air with a sharp, almost judicial clarity. "Captain, the passenger in question." "Her father is Marcus Moore." Grace froze. Her polished mask slipped, eyes widening. Liam's voice caught in his throat. Robert inhaled slowly, the weight of recognition spreading across his features. "The Marcus Moore?" Whispers rippled through the cabin. Passengers exchanged glances, tension threading the air like static electricity. Narration. The engines continued their drone, indifferent to human affairs, but the balance of power inside the cabin had already shifted. A name, calm yet commanding, carried the force to realign privilege and remind arrogance of its fragility. Grace's lips parted, words failing her. Liam avoided eye contact entirely. Elena's hand rested on Ava's shoulder, quiet and firm. The storm had arrived, not with shouts, but with authority. Even above the clouds, silence spoke louder than apology. Fate had a name, and it was heard. The radio buzzed again, low and urgent. "Captain Robert, please confirm receipt." "Passenger's father, Marcus Moore." Robert's hand froze on the throttle. "Copy. Marcus Moore." A sudden stillness swept the cabin, heavier than any turbulence. Grace's lips parted, but no words formed. Liam swallowed hard, shifting weight from one foot to the other, eyes darting toward the aisle, toward Elena. One passenger whispered, almost inaudibly, "Wait, isn't that Marcus Moore?" Grace's voice cracked, brittle. It can't be. He's not." Elena's gaze stayed calm, unwavering. Ava clutched her stuffed bear closer. The hum of engines felt distant, replaced by the quiet tension thickening around them. Liam muttered under his breath, We're in trouble, aren't we?" Grace's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her apron. No, it's fine. Just stay calm." A flight attendant glanced at the crew, uneasy. I think everyone knows now." Robert's voice, steady yet heavy, carried across the intercom. "Cabin crew, remain at positions. HQ is coordinating next steps. Please maintain composure." Narration. The name echoed in every corner, in every glance. Marcus Moore. Not a faceless threat, not a distant authority, but the very embodiment of measured justice. Every smirk, every joke, every dismissal had already begun to crumble beneath the weight of recognition. Ava's eyes lifted to Grace, silently questioning, quietly resilient. Grace's smile, once sharp and polished, faltered entirely, leaving only raw, exposed panic. Liam avoided all eye contact, small beads of sweat forming at his hairline. Passengers shifted subtly in their seats. Sensing the shift in power, the quiet warning coursing through the cabin, Elena leaned close to Ava, whispering softly, "Some storms don't shout. They arrive quietly, and you'll see them through." The plane continued its ascent, clouds streaking past the windows, yet inside, a stillness reigned. Every heart felt the weight of that single name, and every pretense of control dissolved silently, irrevocably. The airport terminal buzzed with the low hum of movement, but all energy seemed drawn toward Marcus as he stepped forward, calm, deliberate. Cameras clicked, phones raised. Grace shifted from foot to foot, forcing a smile that trembled at the edges. I didn't mean for any offense," she stammered, voice tight, eyes avoiding his. "It was just, she's a child, Marcus's gaze never wavered. "Children do not invent coldness, Ms. Grace, they feel it. And they remember." A murmur ran through the surrounding crowd. Reporters scribbled notes, lenses focused, but the weight of the moment held even them in quiet. Grace's hands twisted together, small beads of perspiration forming at her temples. I thought it was minor. A misunderstanding. Marcus lifted a hand slightly, almost imperceptibly. Minor? The child asked for a blanket. You claimed there were none. Another child, White, received 2. This is not minor. It is seen. It is felt. And it is recorded. Her voice faltered. I didn't realize... Marcus's tone softened, yet every word cut deeper. Realization alone does not undo harm. Awareness must guide change. This is not about punishment, Ms. Grace. It is about correction. So the next child will not require cameras to be believed. The terminal's air thickened with quiet acknowledgement. Colleagues of Grace shuffled subtly backward, murmuring excuses among themselves. Some avoided her eyes. The cameras still clicked, but not to capture scandal. To witness something far heavier, the collapse of arrogance under measured dignity. Grace's shoulders sagged. Her carefully curated facade crumbled silently, her excuses shrinking with each heartbeat. Around them, whispers grew, acknowledgement, regret, a shift in perspective. Marcus stood tall, composed, a shield of calm for his daughter, a quiet storm reshaping the world one glance. One sentence at a time, Ava's small hand found Elena's, and she whispered, "He doesn't shout." But everything changes. Narration. In that silence, justice became visible. Not explosive, not loud, but unyielding, precise, and transformative. Grace sits on the edge of the couch, phone trembling slightly in her hand. Headlines scroll past, each one sharper than the last. Flight crew suspended for racist conduct. Child's father demands justice. Airline complies. She swipes, fingers sticky with sweat, but the words do not blur. They fix themselves in her mind, heavier with every headline. I never thought it would get this far, she mutters under her breath, voice almost swallowed by the quiet apartment. Elena stands nearby, arms crossed, watching silently. Ava sits on the floor, toy bear clutched tight, eyes downcast but steady. Grace's gaze flickers between them, realizing the weight of what she had ignored, what she had allowed. Her phone buzzes, another alert, another video going viral. The image of Ava, small and brave, stares back at her. Grace swallows hard. It's just one flight, one child, she says, but the words sound hollow even to her. Narration. Silence, once her shield, now presses on her. The world she thought would protect her indifference now mirrors back her smallest fears. She drops onto the couch, face in hands. People are watching. They know. Elena kneels, voice soft but unwavering. Grace, it's not about you anymore. It's about what was done, what needs to change. Look at her. Ava's calm, even in fear. That's strength. Grace lifts her head, eyes meeting Elena's, then Ava's. The shame crashes inward, a tidal wave of understanding. Her career, her reputation, all seem so small now against the dignity of a child who endured without bitterness. Narration. The silence that followed was not